Hello, and thank you for joining me on episode 1 of the CalmWaves podcast. In this episode, we will be going over why we are doing this podcast. We're going to talk about applied neuroscience and how it impacts our life, why the brain tools we are using are now becoming more available to the public, some tools that can help you with your own brain performance, and the impact of head injuries on our lives. So thank you for joining us here on episode 1 of the CalmWaves podcast, and let's dive right in.
Starting it off today, full day here in Scottsdale, Arizona. The goal of this podcast is just to talk about, especially this episode, is to really just talk about kind of the origin stories of why we're here, why we're doing this, what's our motivation, so that you as an audience can kind of understand more about just our goals and where we're at today in the process. So I'm up here at the Optima up in Scottsdale. So is my dad. He's over there. Kind of the first question to ask, is just why are we doing this? Like, what's the purpose of it? So, Dad, if you want to, Dr. Doug, if you want to start us off with that.
Well, thanks, Dal. Yeah, we're up here in the beautiful sky deck of the Optima. We've made a big move to come out here. And, looking back at what we've done so many years and what we continue to do, it's just helping people. And whether it's been in sports or in private practice or in ministry or whatever it's been, we've got a lot of years invested in helping people, helping them to achieve their dreams, helping them to get through the pain they're going through or fix whatever problems they have. So I think part of the purpose of this podcast of CalmWaves Brain Performance Radio or whatever it'll be called, but the purpose of this podcast is still trying to help people. Hope that we have some topic or 2 or 3 topics each week that the listening audience is going to be able to hear and say, hey, you know what, that's good. I do that with podcasts. I listen to podcasts to try to find answers to problems or learn new things, because I know that my best learning and my best thinking and my habits have brought me to this place in my life. And if I want to go to a different place, a better place in my life, I have to hear new thoughts, different thoughts from my own. I have to create new habits. I have to get outside input, coaching, teaching, whatever it might be. So wisdom from somebody else so that I can go to the next level. So we hope that what we talk about in these podcasts will help somebody else who's listening be able to go to the next level, whatever it is that they want to do, whatever their dreams are, whatever their problems are, that they can get over them and get to the next level.
Absolutely. I know we were texting back and forth this morning just about just some words and just some things about, what is this podcast going to look like? And what I loved, what you texted me this morning was strategies, applied neuroscience, technologies, and total commitment. So going to the applied neuroscience, what does that mean?
There's a lot of research going on about the human brain right now. The last 10 years, 15 years, billions of dollars have been invested in the Genome Project and the Human Brain Mapping Project by the government, by National Institute of Health, National Institute of Mental Health. We're trying to find out how our brain works, how our body works at deeper and deeper and deeper levels. So neuroscience has been looking to see how to enhance brain performance for years. And we live in the age of the brain. This is an amazing, since 2000, but certainly the last 10 years, the advancements in understanding the human brain and how to optimize it. This is the time to be alive if you're interested in having your brain work better. So the technologies that we have, that we've acquired, that we are using are in that category. And some of it is, the technologies can be 50 years old. I mean, neurofeedback started in the 50s, 60s, and the idea of applying biofeedback to brain performance. These are old thoughts, but as computers get faster and faster and faster, and what used to be technology that only NASA could use, and now people can go down to Walmart and buy it, it seems. It's just an amazing time to be working on the brain. So we take the best of neuroscience in terms of brain performance and optimization and apply it with our clients. So whether it's people are at this end of the bell curve and they want to get up over the hump, they've had concussion, or they have some other trauma, brain trauma, emotional trauma, whatever it might be, we want to help people get up over that. And then for those who are on this side of the bell curve and want to be the elite of the elite because their contract depends on it, they're making a team depends on it, whatever it might be, then we want to help those people as well with that elite peak performance kind of training. And this neuroscience is studying all of it, and people create tools to make all of those things happen, and we happen to apply that learning and those tools.
Why do you think that these tools are not as widely used today in common practice or common kind of team organizations, or kind of part of a routine that somebody in the sports world would already go through?
Well, that's a great question. There are, I think, a number of different reasons for that. One is that some of these things, some of these brain biofeedback or neurofeedback tools have become popularized and really simplified, and they're available on Amazon. So we'll probably find most athletes have a $300 neurofeedback thing that accomplishes some benefit. What we have is $20,000 neurofeedback things that accomplish much, much more, and are clinical tools. They're applied clinically. Hospital tools and FDA approved, and they're not brain toys, which have their value, but they're much more intense. Why aren't they used by teams? There is something about a bureaucracy, whether it's a sports team, a university athletic department, a church, a government bureaucracy, a big corporation, whatever. Innovation is just really difficult. It is not in the best interest of the bureaucracy to have innovation. It's in the best interest of the entrepreneurs, the owners, the people who want to take the company from here to there. But for the mid-level management, for the bureaucrats, the people who were hired just to maintain status quo, innovation is not on their list. So you hear a lot in organizations of a variety of sorts of, we've never done it like that here before. So it just slams the door on, well, we got 10 ways for you to do what you're doing better. Well, we've never done it like that here before. So I think it's just hard for a Major League Baseball team, a National Football League team, to say, I'm going to adopt some things new and better right now. They seem, the nature of a bureaucracy is let somebody else do it first, and if they're successful, then we'll consider it. We'll have a staff meeting about it, and we'll think about it for a year or a season. And it's very few teams that say, do it now. You get a new coach who comes into Seattle, and he says, we're going to do this now. right? That
Mm-hmm.
was, a few years back with them. They're sort of cutting edge with it.
Pete Carroll.
Um, Pete
Yeah.
Carroll,
Up at
Seahawks, right?
Seahawks. Yeah.
So it takes an entrepreneurial person to come in and say, we're just going to do this completely different than it's ever been done before. You think of, all right, so Vince Lombardi's from my era because I'm that old. And Vince Lombardi came into the Green Bay Packers. The story is told. I wasn't there. But his first day on the job, and he has this team meeting, and he says, two things are true. One is we are going to win the National Football League championship. And the second is only half of you are going to be on the team to see that happen. Which half are you going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that shook up everything. All
Yeah.
of a sudden, business as usual is over.
Yeah.
That we're going to have to play and think at a whole different level for me to be on the part of the team that's going to move forward because he's going to cut half of us. So very few leaders do that. I think most leaders in bureaucracies get hired to perform a job, but man, if they stand out too much and they don't win the championship, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the nature of the job. I don't care where you are in a professional sports team or at the athletic department of a school or at a church or at the Department of Motor Vehicles. That's just the way it is, that you
Mm-hmm.
just keep your job.
Yeah, probably a culture wise. I mean, if you have a culture that is promoting that and looking for those things, they're probably going to have more, a lot more failures because they're going to try something out and maybe it didn't work or it wasn't the right timing or anything like that. But I think of one of my favorite movies is Moneyball, talking about Billy Beane and, just
Uh-huh.
that story of him taking a chance and going, all right, I'm going to rebuild a team. I'm going to do this differently. And I love the quote. He's having a conversation with GM the owner of the Boston Red Sox, and they're about to make him the highest paid GM. Um, and he says the first guy through the wall is always the bloodiest, meaning the people that want to innovate or they want to do something different. There's going to be some pain that goes along with it. And as you said, going into the bureaucracy standpoint, um, it's tough. It's tough when you're just trying to kind of keep your job rather than trying to push and innovate. And that's why I think for us and what we're able to do is we're not in that type of mode. We can be able to innovate at a personal level, and that's what's exciting is to be kind of outside of those walls and still have an impact on those performers within those organizations and within those teams, or if you're a solo person too. I mean, a golfer or a tennis player, or but the people who are in those team environments, we can still have an impact on them, but it's just from the outside in. Um, so that's what.
Exactly right. It's so much. What we do is I don't know if it's unique, but it's pretty rare. And so it's much better for us to work with individual entrepreneurs who happen to be professional athletes.
Mhm.
It's better for us to work with them than organizations. Not that I would be opposed to working with organizations, and we'll be connecting
Mhm.
with some organizations asking if they want to do this, but ideally it is individual players who understand the value of their performance both personally and to their families and to their contracts. And they just want
I,
their performance to
mhm.
be enhanced.
I think something that I've seen just coming from the environment of software and just the ease of use kind of side of things. I think what a barrier to entry as well into this next kind of space from a brain performance standpoint is ease of use, where on the clinical side you have to have entire rooms dedicated, you have to have training dedicated, you have to have degrees dedicated, and so it's harder to to come upon these types of technologies or whatever they are. But um, but as things get easier, as these technologies, as you said before, computers get faster, um, the application of it becomes more of a mobile environment or a remote environment. I think people will grasp that more. People will be able to add that a part of their routine more. And that's, a goal that we're trying to do too, is trying to live in the world that they live in, rather than them having to spend time to come see us. So I think that's an exciting thing. But yeah, I mean, from when you doing this 30 years ago, from today, there has been an improvement in the ease of use, I would say, of those different types of products.
Oh, absolutely. 30 years ago, imagine what a computer looked like 30 years ago. And internet access, we picked up a phone and stuck it into a box and heard these
Yeah,
tones come out, and they would connect
yeah,
over a phone line, and that was
yeah.
called a modem. Yeah, things were much different 30 years ago, but still the concept was
Hmm.
powerful. And when it comes to neurofeedback, the concept, like any biofeedback concept,
Hmm.
if you can tell the person in pretty much real time, nothing's real time, but in just a, you know, 1/256th of a second, you tell the person what their body's doing, whether it's heart rate or skin temperature or blood flow or brain waves, muscle tension, whatever it is. If you tell the person what their body's doing, in a fairly short period of time, people can learn to change and control that. So heart rate
Hmm.
variability for stress management, it's very
Hmm.
common. People get feedback on their heart rate and somebody says, slow it down, speed it up,
Hmm.
learn how to control your heart
Hmm.
rate, blood flow, and so on. So those are the those are the tools we started with 30 years ago, was blood flow and skin temperature, and then brain waves. And they were very powerful. We were teaching people how to decrease the amplitude, the energy, the amplitude for distracted brain waves, for fuzzy thinking brain waves, and how to increase the energy in in the zone brain waves or focused brain waves or alertness brain waves. And that's how this thing started. And the application was wide, from people with head injuries or anxiety disorders or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder to professional athletes, pilots, NASA, test pilots out at Edward Air Force Base. All of these guys were, benefited from it. And now here we are 30 years later, and I've got my cell phone. It's 10 times faster of a processor than what the big computers we had back then
Hmm.
are. It's amazing.
Talk a little bit about. I know there's a huge thing about mental performance and mental health, and those types of there's a lot of talk about it. And there's a lot of more attention of anything. You're you know doctored in this stuff, and you deal with this at a very high level. What is your take on one, the mental health space, uh, coupled with the brain performance space? I mean, how do those kind of work together, um, in with each other?
Well, at the back end of it, this side of the bell curve side of it, any kind of a trauma, whether it's a concussion, and most people have had concussions. I mean, I figure all the people I've talked to, probably the average is 3 legit concussions, and I mean legit, like, you know let's go to the hospital, or let's wake up tomorrow, or something, concussions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are. People suffer concussions. I have a colleague back in Rosamond, California, working with a client who had over 50 concussions. I'm thinking, what is wrong with this person? But 50 concussions. So I guess that's possible to have that many. But anything like a concussion, a traumatic brain injury from an auto accident or whatever, um, or emotional kinds of traumas, PTSD from the way we were raised, combat, um, just emotional kinds of traumas, can limit brain performance. They all limit brain performance. They create a box around what level we can perform at. And if that box could be deconstructed, if you could break that box apart, then a person can go to the next level, or 2 levels or 3 levels farther in their performance. So that's one part of mental health is trauma. We'll just put it in the category of trauma. And physical or emotional traumas limit performance. Another part of it is things like anxiety, where it's very common, and whether a player calls it the yips, that's a golfing term from the 80s. And but it's this kind of performance anxiety. It comes when you are actually doing what God made you to do. You're playing golf, you're playing baseball, you're playing whatever, and you have this momentary anxiety that inhibits your ability to perform, limits your ability to perform. And then there are 100 other kinds of anxieties that just because you're a professional athlete doesn't mean that you're not susceptible to things that cause anxiety in the general population, or things that cause depression in the general population, or things that cause or ADHD in the general population. What percentage of baseball players is prescribed Ritalin for ADHD? It's got to be something like 15 or 18% of Major League Baseball players. Whether they have it or not, or just want to use stimulant medication, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But I do know, like we had a pitcher at the university that I coached at who signed with the Phillies and had a 15-year major league career with a number of teams, and he was as ADD as the day is long. But he was 6'5" and could throw 98 miles an hour, and nobody cared. But I would watch him throw. He would have been an awesome relief pitcher, but he was great for 5 innings. But in the 6th inning, he'd get this brain fade, and he'd get lit up in the 6th and 7th innings because he couldn't focus that long. He couldn't concentrate. He just couldn't do it. So professional athletes and entrepreneurs come from the same population pool we all do, right? And we're susceptible to all of this stuff. Dan Sullivan, who is a tremendous business coach, that any of the entrepreneurs who are listening know who Dan Sullivan is. Mm-hmm. And he says that he only works with entrepreneurs, and he estimates that half of all the entrepreneurs that he has ever worked with over the past 40 years are diagnosable with ADHD. Half. See the world different, work within the world differently, don't like to sit down at a desk and grind it out for a week. They just don't do that. They want to go do something different, change the world, have a different kind of lifestyle because their brain requires it. Some people are bankers and some people are hunters. And the bankers just maintain stuff, keep it going. They're bureaucrats, and they're naturally born that way. And other people are hunters, and they go out, and they do not come back until they bring the village meat for the winter. Mm-hmm. And that's probably half of the entrepreneurs in the world, and many professional athletes are in that category. So if we can work at those things and enhance them so that they're not a problem, but in fact they are a pathway to greater success, then that's part of, I think, what you're asking with mental health and performance, is instead of these things being limiting, The things that are limiting, we can improve, fix, get rid of. But the things that can be used to help propel somebody forward, we want to use this. You know that formula, that tennis coach. You can quote that better than me, but it's the idea
Tim
that,
Tim Tim Galloway at Inner Game of Tennis.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's an old formula that many of
yeah,
the listeners are familiar with. Is your performance comes from this equation. It's your potential minus interference in your life equals your actual performance. So the potential, the athlete, the entrepreneur enhances their potential by lifting weights, by getting in shape, by working with trainers, by doing nutrition, by listening to podcasts. Entrepreneurs are talking to Dan Sullivan or Joe Polish or a number of other people in the business realm, and that enhances their potential. Then you have the part of the equation of interference. What are the things that hold you back? And that's the list. Whether it's something, concussion, something physical with your brain, anxiety, fear, um, the list can go on and on. Lies that we believe about ourselves or about other people, whatever it might be, that those things hold us back. And so if we can get rid of those, fix those, however that's done, and increase your potential, then man, your performance then just takes off and goes to the next level.
What as we kind of wrap it up here right now, and that car goes by really fast. Um, what what is it that you, as kind of as we take this journey, as you take this journey, what are the things that you want, as we can kind of listen back to this? What are the things that you want the listeners of this podcast to take away? Like, what are some things that maybe you're hoping for, that somebody would listen to this and go, okay, I can actually apply this to my life?
There are a number of ways to go to the next level, and that's that Tim Galloway equation. Number of important things, number of important habits to have, things to do, commitments to make in order to do what it takes to improve your potential. And there are a number of tools available in this world to help decrease the interference so that you can have better performance, better outcomes. What we provide are some of those tools that have to do with brain performance. Some of it is mental coaching. I mean, my doctorate's in psychology, so a lot of it is just looking at what are our beliefs, and are they based on truth or lies? If they're based on the lies, hey, how do we get rid of that? What are the fears that hold us back? And so on, the psychology of it. But the tools that we have, the applied neuroscience tools, the neurofeedback, whether it's brainwave or whether it's blood flow, whatever it might be, these tools help to improve brain performance, the way your brain actually works. And they can be measured. We have a number of psychological, neurological tests that people can take, whether it's from Cambridge Brain Sciences in Toronto, Canada, or test of variables of attention, or the impact concussion test, whatever it might be, that we can measure improvement in neurological performance, brain and central nervous system functioning. And it can be measured, and it can be felt, and it can be amazing at what it does for people. So whether it's a third grader failing school and all of a sudden 6 months later he's getting all A's and B's, or whether it's a hockey player who has had enough head injuries and has ADHD that he just can't focus or concentrate, and and all of a sudden he's on the peak in his life and has ambition and is doing things, creative things he never dreamed of doing before, whatever it might be. It's just helping the brain and the central nervous system work better. So that's where the applied neuropsychology, the applied neuroscience comes into play with the tools that we use in CalmWaves.
That's awesome. Yeah, my goal for this is I think as we start to explore the different subjects and the different areas, is just to have this really open, honest discussion about, brain performance and how it affects our lives. I mean, I think through my learning about this and going through it and living it in different aspects, from concussions to PTSD to all of those types of things, and how these tools have helped me, is to really tell people that there is help available. When we
Yeah,
have
just tell me
discussions,
real quickly,
uh,
what was your favorite concussion?
getting drilled in the head with a line drive in junior college. Um, I was playing third, taking ground balls in practice. There's a net in front of us, guy rolling it, just doing double play balls, and I stepped back behind the net. Guy hits I don't know why the coach never did this afterwards. Live batting practice during people taking ground balls, not paying attention, and I just stepped far enough behind the net that a guy hit a line drive, had enough topspin over the net, drilled me in the head, um, knocked me down. I honestly didn't feel it. I just felt my body just crumble and fall to the ground, and toes up, try to get up, be tough man, and just fell back down. And the coach came over to me and asked me, "How many fingers am I holding up?" I said, "4." And he goes, "Oh no." I said, "Oh, it's just 2." He goes, "Don't mess with me right now." I do remember that. But yeah, I mean, that was probably my most recent and pronounced one. Um, kind of, I'm in that concussion. Um, but I do know that the tools that we use, really helped me with my anxiety and clarity of thought. And so I think it's exciting and important for me to be able to share that with other people. And so I think that's what makes me really excited about just talking about it. I'm not in the space of I don't have a degree in anything in the neuro side of things. I've been with people. I understand people, and my goal is to look at these technologies and look at these processes and go, okay, how do we make them better? How do we apply them better? And then how do we talk with people who are the experts in the space, that have the degrees and have the um, experience to be able to help people. So that's really my goal with this podcast, and which I'm super excited about.
And certainly you're not unique in having been knocked down
Mm-hmm.
or knocked out. Probably most of the people listening to this type of podcast have had that experience and may still be suffering from the the impact of that, the trauma on the brain of that, and it plays out in 100 different ways. Sometimes nominally, what can I say? Like not being able to focus well, having anxiety about not being able to focus well, or just generalized anxiety, or difficulty reading or writing or whatever that you didn't have prior to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that, but for a number of people, it is rage, drinking heavily to try to keep the rage demons down, and breaking up relationships, and be, just becoming the world's biggest jerks or whatever. That head injuries do things to us. The part of our brain that says, I wouldn't do that if I were you, is often
Mm-hmm.
the part of the brain that's injured.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are now doing things they never would have done had their
Mm-hmm.
brain not been injured. So these are people we can also help um, been doing it for a lot of years, and now moving into Scottsdale and moving into this arena of professional athletes and entrepreneurs. Same thing. We can do the same
Yeah.
thing. That we can help a lot of people, and that's why we're here.
Yep. Yep. And I know we're going to go into a lot of deeper subjects, and I know we kind of went on the surface on a lot of different things, talking about a lot of different subjects. But I'd be excited to be able to jump into more, spend a whole podcast on, mental performance versus brain performance, or goals and motivations and purpose, and just talking about the latest, greatest, and inviting guests on to talk about mental performance and how it works in their lives. And so yeah, I'm excited to jump into all of those different subjects.
Yeah, this will be great.
All right. Till next time.
Okay, thank you.
Signing off.